Hi everyone, I'm Jessie and my learning module is about how public libraries can better serve people who have been incarcerated. And throughout my learning module, I will use several terms to describe the target population, including ex-offenders and former prisoners, or ex-prisoners, ex-convicts, and ex-felons. So I just want to note that I use these terms interchangeably, and I'm referring to any person who has spent time in a state or federal correctional facility as a result of being convicted of a felony. My module does not discuss people on probation, although they probably have similar information needs. My video will answer the following questions. Who are ex-offenders, and what are some challenges that ex-offenders face after leaving prison? Later in the module, the reading and the case studies will address the information needs of ex-offenders and also why public libraries should provide services and programs for ex-offenders. So I'll start by giving some background information about who are ex-offenders. And in case you're interested in my sources for the statistics that I cite, you can find them in the link underneath the video. So it's impossible to count the number of ex-offenders who currently live in the United States, but according to the Bureau of Justice Statistics, more than 600,000 people are released from prison every year, and at the end of 2013, approximately 45,000 people were on parole in our state. So what does this mean for public librarians? A few days ago, I spoke to a librarian who works with former prisoners in the Rochester Public Library, and he said that if you think you don't have ex-felons at your library, then you're wrong. So we'll all probably be working with ex-offenders at some point in our future career. So I'm going to now discuss the demographics of the ex-felon population because I think the intersecting identities of ex-offenders affect the challenges they face and also their information needs. And I'll be giving statistics for parolees because it's impossible to get data on the ex-offender population when they're no longer being tracked by state parole boards. So in 2013, 88% of people on parole were male and 12% were female. And I think now's a good time to mention transgender ex-prisoners. The Bureau of Justice Statistics doesn't keep any numbers on transgender people in prison, but a 2011 study by the National Center for Transgender Equality found that 16% of trans respondents reported being incarcerated. There's also a racial component to the imprisonment of transgender people, with 47% of trans African American respondents reporting being incarcerated at some point during their lives. The Bureau of Justice Statistics also does not track the number of lesbian, gay, or bisexual people in prisons, but some studies suggest that the LGB population is overrepresented in the criminal justice system. So bear that in mind when working with ex-prisoners. To return to a discussion of race in the ex-offender population, here's the breakdown by race of people on parole in 2013. 43% were white, 38% were African American, 17% were Latino, 1% were American Indian or Alaskan Natives, and 1% were either Asian, Native Hawaiian, or Pacific Islanders. Incarceration disproportionately affects communities of color. In 2010, African Americans made up approximately 13% of the population of the United States, but 37% of the prison population. And African American males are about 6 times more likely to be incarcerated than white males. My learning module isn't really about racism in the criminal justice system, but I think I would be remiss if I didn't touch upon the effects of incarceration on African American communities. So that's why I mentioned these statistics. The median education level for released prisoners is 11th grade, so most ex-offenders don't have a high school diploma. And as I did research to prepare this learning module, I came across countless studies stating that many ex-felons lack even basic literacy. 16% of ex-offenders have a documented mental illness, and more than 70% have a history of substance abuse. The rate of imprisonment has increased most among populations whose unemployment rates are highest. So I'm not making a connection between income and criminal behavior because I didn't find any data to support that link. But I did learn that from 1983 to 2001, the gap between rich and poor widened dramatically, and studies suggest that this did contribute to a rise in the prison population. Now I'm going to talk about the challenges that ex-offenders face when leaving prison. And the greatest challenge is to avoid going back to prison. In New York State, 2/3 of ex-offenders will return to prison within 3 years of their release. So why do so many people reoffend? The three biggest factors are housing, employment, and substance abuse treatment. In terms of housing, by and large, ex-offenders return to urban communities where safe, low-income housing is hard to find. And families of former prisoners are often reluctant to welcome them into their homes, especially when the ex-prisoner is a drug addict or has mental health problems. Many prisons really make no attempt to connect inmates with housing resources on the outside, and there are not enough temporary living facilities to meet the needs of all ex-offenders. Something I learned when doing this research is that I thought that all ex-offenders who were on parole went to halfway houses or treatment facilities, and that's laughably not true. There are definitely not enough temporary living facilities for everyone who needs to be there. When it comes to employment, ex-offenders can face significant barriers to getting a full-time job that pays decently. And some of these barriers are lack of education and job-related skills, an incomplete work history, the inability of prison to prepare people for meaningful work, and stigma. Many employers refuse to hire ex-felons even though hiring discrimination is illegal in some states. Computers present another hurdle. Most prisons ban the internet entirely or restrict access to a few downloaded databases of legal information. This means that many ex-offenders lack basic computer skills, including typing and filling out an online job application. Substance abuse and mental health treatment is the final barrier, and ex-offenders often have a hard time accessing treatment for drug and alcohol abuse and mental health problems when they need it. And if they do need it, substance abuse and mental illness can impact every part of an ex-offender's life, and it can be one of the biggest barriers to holding a job, reuniting with family, becoming part of conventional society, and developing a positive self-conception. I hope that this video has given you a better idea of the demographics of the ex-offender population and also some of the challenges that this population faces so that you can better serve them in public libraries.